Hi, and thank you for joining me for today's Lake Take. Let me tell you something that you probably already know. Prayer is both easy and quite challenging, sometimes even at the same time. On the one hand, prayer is surprisingly easy. There's no specific formula or particular procedure that you need to follow. You can just begin talking to God and share with Him what's on your mind. In prayer, we get God's ear. God, the one who made us and knows everything about us, has invited us to come boldly into His presence and relate with Him. If you don't know what to pray, pray about that. If you're angry, tempted, or discouraged, tell God about that. With prayer comes the freedom to tell God all about what's ailing you, holding you back, or keeping you up late at night. Although prayer is easy, it can also be very hard. It actually might be one of the hardest things we do. Because with prayer, sometimes comes struggle. When we pray, our minds can wander on us and we lose track of what we even started prayer about in the first place. We tend to look at it over time as a duty or an obligation versus the privilege it is. And sometimes we even go through periods of life when we wonder whether prayer is even really worth it. Especially in those instances when we pray and there's no response. Or better put, no response in our timing. When that happens, it makes it easier to buy into the false belief that God doesn't even care about us. Like I said, prayer can be easy, but it can also be quite challenging. In fact, it's actually been said of prayer that the hardest thing about it is that gap that exists between thinking about praying and actually praying. What would my advice be if you're struggling currently with your prayer life and you don't know how or where to start? Because maybe it's your first time or you haven't prayed in a while? It would simply be, just start. Jump in with both feet and do your best to narrow that gap I just talked about. I know there might be some resistance or some worries, and you should acknowledge them, but you shouldn't let it outweigh your want to pray. Again, God is a captive audience for you. He wants to hear from you. So don't worry about the words or how you might look. Again, jump in and talk to God like you would a good friend, a spouse, a parent. Just tell Him what's on your mind and let Him know what you're going through. If you still find it intimidating or hard to pray, then tell Him that, and then go one further and ask for His help. You don't need to worry about being presentable to God. Remember, He cares about you and He loves hearing from you. So don't keep Him waiting.